faculty member here at PHCC, and I also serve on the Art Gallery Committee. So in that capacity, I'm involved with identifying and inviting artists to exhibit their work in the gallery in the library building. And one of those artists is Melanie Feldman, our speaker today. And I'm really excited about Melanie being here. I met her at the reception for the opening of her exhibit, and I liked her right away. I like her as much as I like her paintings, and that's saying a lot because I'm crazy about her paintings. They are just spectacular. So if you haven't yet had an opportunity to go over to the gallery and see her paintings, I really encourage you to do so. Melanie Feldman was born in Chicago, while her parents, who were performers in a jazz ensemble, were traveling around the country. And then in the early 1960s, her family, the parents, 2 brothers, and Melanie, settled in Madeira Beach. She's been a portrait painter since her early teens, and then in the 1980s, she became a photographic artist. As a very young woman, she was a protege of the chief restorer and replication artist for the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. And she's also been an apprentice for various professional illustrators and graphic artists. Since 1987, Melanie and her husband Alan, who's also a professional photographer, have owned a studio in Brandon, Florida, Feldman's Photography. But they've traveled all over the world, working and teaching in all parts of the world, and this is one of the most interesting things about both of them. Most of her life, Melanie was a traditional and classical painter, and then in 2004, she accepted a challenge from her husband, Alan, to develop her own unique style of self-expression as an artist, to embark on her own journey. The result is the body of work that's on exhibit in the gallery and what she will talk about today. So she's going to talk for a while about her personal journey as an artist, her philosophy of art, and I think some of you will be especially interested in how to parlay artistic interest and skill into a livelihood. And then she'll take questions from the audience. So I give you Melanie Feldman.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate Dr. Bell and Diana Hansen who brought me here. And it's wonderful, it's really wonderful to be able to share my journey with all of you. They call me Melanie, the painter of women, because my subject matter in this part of my life is always women. Just oh, wrong way. This is me in my very early 16, 17-year-old, full of hope and excitement in the 60s. As Dr. Bell told you, my life's journey began as a very small child, traveling with an ensemble of artists, theatrical, musicians, and writers. My family did all of the above. On both sides of my family, my mother and my father's family, we were literally gypsies and or nomads, because we'd go from city to city where my dad would perform and my uncles with some of the big jazz greats. And for me, as a child, people performing, people creating, and most important of all, the discipline of practice and rehearsing and doing until you got it right was part of my DNA, I guess. Because all around me, there were lots of crazy people having a great time and trying to be their very, very best. As Dr. Bell mentioned, we eventually settled in Madeira Beach, where in my middle school years, I was recognized. I had basic art classes. Nothing very special.
Keep going.
Nothing very special. Basic classes, ceramics, that sort of thing. And my very first experience with clay, I was asked to do bowls and pots and things like that. But as a 14-year-old, I was very uninspired with that, and I decided, I looked down at my hands and I sculpted my hands. Very shortly thereafter, I was asked to go into the principal's office, and I thought, oh boy, I'm in trouble, I didn't follow the rules. And what had happened is he took me aside and said, Melanie, I want to tell you, God gave you a gift. You have magic hands. And whether he told all the students that kind of encouragement or not, I believed him. He said, you have 2 eyes, a brain, and hands that you can create, and you can do anything that you believe that you can do. So it really makes a point of letting you know that one person inspiring your life can affect a change. Because up until that time, I was very shy and introverted and reclusive. And I started to develop my art. The picture you see here was one of my first canvases. 1966, I bought a Volkswagen, painted it buttercup yellow, and beyond that, I did the flower power daisies all over it before it was in style. And I even made my own slip covers. As you can see, I'm color coordinated. And everywhere I'd go in town, I wondered why people were always following me. So from there, you know, I developed my art. And that summer, I took a class in Bel Air Beach. And at that time, it was called Gulf Coast Art Center. And I do believe it's still in existence, but has since been moved to Largo, that area, Arlington. But at that time, in its very early stages, I met a gentleman that was the chief restorator for the Metropolitan in New York, and he did the replications of the old masters, and he did art restoration. So, at a very, very early teenage year, these people affected my life. This is what I considered very elderly at the time, and he's probably my age, which I don't consider elderly anymore. And I joined a group, an entourage of artists, an atelier, and I don't know if you know what an atelier is. An atelier is a group of artists who come together to create. And so I would hang out with all these very elderly people, and they would teach me their craft. I would do anything to keep them happy, to watch what they were doing. I was so inspired by their work. I'd bring them coffee, I'd buy them sandwiches. They accepted me, I joined them as the youngest member, and along the way, as I developed, they took my work and entered it into an international contest. And lo and behold, I won 3rd prize. Not first, 3rd. Doesn't matter if it's first. The fact of the matter is I was this 17-year-old girl winning a 3rd place international award. That was a major big deal for me. And all of a sudden, this girl, who I was, who wasn't particularly good at anything except drawing, I felt inspired. And they took me along the way. A lot of the artists were graphic artists. They were worked for Hallmark, and they were all retired. At that time, the Dunedin, Palm Harbor area had a lot of retired artists. And so, oops, I keep doing this. I kept practicing my craft, working. Right here you see me, I was probably in the early 80s. I joined a bunch of vagabond artists, and we developed the Renaissance Festival, of which you used to have in Largo. I think it's off state, it's either in Tampa now, but it's a Renaissance Festival which required 6 weeks of participation, which I would dress, and all those paintings you see in the background are replicas of very, very, very famous artwork. And it was our job to create an environment of the Renaissance. So we did the backgrounds, we did the structures. It was very, very hard work. And when the Renaissance Festival was in full swing, what we did is 15-minute sketch artist I became for, I don't know if it was $15 or $20, something very minimal. But what had happened is when you want to learn something, you jump in with the alligators. You'd be surprised how quickly and what your learning curve is. So not knowing that I couldn't do it, I did it. And I became better and better at what I did. Along the way, I met my husband, Alan. Alan is a professional master photographer. And at that time, we decided to combine forces. And I became the reality is I became a restoration artist, restoring old photos, making people look better than they really are. And in those days, it wasn't digital. We had to do everything with airbrush and pencils and dyes. And we thought we could conquer the world. We began, we had a personal involvement with our community all the while doing this, donating our time to the community, and also the photographic community where we began to teach and compete in competitions, not so much to be better than someone else as much as to challenge ourselves. So we challenged ourselves, and as we grew, we became more well known for our work. And in doing so, we had the opportunity to teach internationally. We worked and we worked, we went to school, we constantly learned, we constantly were involved with the community, and we always used to have the saying. People would tell us how lucky we were, and we would say, the harder we work, the luckier we get. So from that period on, we started teaching internationally. We also became very involved with humanity. My husband's a district governor of Rotary International. We started doing humanitarian causes where we actually lived with people, lots of third world people, and people of all walks of life. And in doing so, it created an influence of ethnicity and embracing of the world. And we really got to feel the difficulties of people and also rejoice in all their joys. And that was an enormous influence. Education-wise, I'm really self-taught through all the people I've met. However, through my photographic art background, I've always continuously taken classes in art. I've taken classes in design, color, composition, paint, chemistry, because in order to break the rules to accomplish impact or strength in what you're doing, you need to understand what the rules are, be it music, be it art, be it photography. You need to understand the basics. And then from there, you can design, composition, do what you want with a purpose in mind. We began judging. I'm here to say I'm 64 years old and I'm still learning. I'm still taking classes. In fact, we just left a convention to come here in Orlando to go back. Because you never stop. Your education doesn't stop just because you've gotten a degree. People always ask me about my technique. My technique, I choose according to what I want to say. Once again, once you understand rules, once you understand impressionism, once you understand abstract, once you understand traditional composition, once you understand it, the thing about an artist is that you accumulate all these talents and all these experiences, and you draw from them. You draw from them, and especially a very creative person. All those things are embedded into your psyche. So my answer to technique is, the technique I use is basically whatever I deem I want to say. And if you do something long enough, hard enough, and practice often enough, it'll come to you. Even to this day, I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning with a concept, and I work it out on paper, transfer it, because my work comes totally from imagination, totally. And put it to paper, then put it to canvas, begin to paint. I know where I'm going. I often don't until I get there, and then I say what I want to say, and 4 o'clock in the morning till 9, then I get ready for work, and guess what? I go to work all day till 7 o'clock, because there's no such thing as a creative block. Creative block is a cop-out for saying, I don't feel like working. If you do something long enough and hard enough, it will come to you. And that's called self-discipline. I'm going to talk a little about the business of art. The reality is it's very, very hard to sell art because it's a very personal choice for people to spend their money. Even if they may like your work, it may not go with their furniture. It may not be the consensus of the entire family. So the reality, the business of art is very difficult. And so all along the way, I have done things that are artistic. I've done makeup, hair, transformation of people. I do that in our studio, transformation. I've done that, I did runway work for years and years. But my main living, the living I have made the most money and made an actual living and raised 5 children, was with copy restoration. I restore all photos. My husband is a techie. So we digitize film, we restore sound. We've become the go-to people for trying to figure out how you get from point A to point F. When something can't be done, people come to us and we figure it out. So once again, it's still the process of learning. And one of the things I've learned along the way is that artists always have to reinvent themselves. How hard is it every day, or every week, or every month to reinvent a new project and hope it sells? What we decided to do is we bought printers, and we've invested into making giclées. Giclées are just basically, we photograph my artwork, digitize it, I rework it digitally, and we have big Epson printers which we print on canvas, watercolor paper, art paper, all kinds of things. And the thing of it is, a person can come to me and say, I love that image, but it's too big or it's too small. I can produce it in any size, any form, and I can sell it over and over without having to do all the legwork and all the creating again. It is one way an artist can actually make a living selling their work. And from that, I've produced postcards and things like that. They can be put on t-shirts. And you know, so many people want to be purists. That's nice. That's nice if you're an Andy Warhol or somebody like that that can get hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the reality, all the work you put into a painting can be 40, 50, 60 hours, 2 months to work on a piece. And if you figure it out, you make less than minimum wage unless you find a way to do that. It's also very important to learn marketing and sales and service, customer service. You are selling yourself. You're not just selling your work. It is really, there's an old saying in sales that says, sell the sizzle, not the steak. And what that means is when people come and look at my work and say that's beautiful, I tell them how I produced the work. I tell them what I was thinking, what I was feeling. I help them be invested in the possibility of wanting to share and keep that piece. And so while most artists or artistic peoples tend to be very loner, shy people, you really, really need to get over yourself. Years ago when we got hired to teach internationally, I wouldn't even answer a telephone. I was so shy. And my husband said to me, well, you want to come along with me? Well, then you better learn how to teach because they're going to hire us both. And I took a class in Dale Carnegie class, and I learned how to speak in front of people. And my very, very first class was in front of hundreds of people in London, of all places, of which there are totally very stoic, very rigid audience with their little teacups, and I was wondering, oh my God, do they hate what I'm saying? You know, but it worked out great, and that's all a part of what you need to learn in life to become better. So learning the business, you know, there are all kinds of outlets. There's digital, you know, animation. There's all kinds of ways you can go to practice every single day your art, even in writing, you know. Even in writing, art, music are all disciplines that have to be used and practiced regularly. So if you can't make a living selling that beautiful landscape, I mean, how many people know they want a tree on a river? How much money you're going to really make from that is not realistic. We have to get real about life. Reality is, if you can work in a vein of art, or teach, or experience what you do, and discipline yourself regularly to put in and commit to that amount of time, then you'll be successful. I just talked about reality. Okay. Years ago, when I was doing portrait painting, and I was painting and doing people's faces and their children and their family, my husband came over to me and said, you know, you're not really an artist. And I said, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. He said, you're not a real artist. A real artist is when someone looks at your work and says, oh, that's a Melanie. Or, oh, that's a Dolly. Well, I'm not that good, but, you know, just for example, he said, they have to be able to look at your work and know where it comes from. And you have to set yourself apart from the pack. And of course, I got really angry. I was very upset, had a pity party, took my work, did the whole temperamental artist thing, took everything off the wall, gave things away, cried myself to sleep. And then I thought about it and I thought, I can do it. I'll show him. And I committed to do 30 pieces in a year. And I said, I can do anything I set my mind to. And so my very first piece, right here you're seeing, is called Pissed Off. Because what do I know? What am I good at? Who am I? I'm a woman. What do I know? I know a lot about women. I know a lot about their feelings. I know their tragedies. I know their joys. I'm a girl. I know about being a girl. And I know I am pissed off. And so the very first painting I did, created out of anger, stubbornness, I'll show you, it's called Pissed Off. And there again, what I'm doing is I'm breaking the rules. It's dead center. Most art should not be dead center. I did it to prove a point. The arms are folded, the body is tilted. It's meant to keep you off kilter. It's meant for you to have to turn your head and see what I'm trying to say. The stars are basically, you know how you see stars when you're angry? You can't think of anything else when you're that angry. And so my arms are clenched, my teeth are gritted, and I'm looking at him and saying, you're right, but I'm going to show you. And that was my very first piece of work, and I abstracted everything. This here is my signature painting. I call it The Balancing Act. This was the second piece I did. And what I'm saying here is an ode to women, our lives of balancing reality. We have to be attractive. We have to be thin. We have to have family. We have to juggle all these things, education, family, career, security. And the very last ball is potential. When do we have time for our potential as women? And all the while we're being manipulated. My husband says it's his hand, but it's not. It's society. It's being manipulated by everything that comes crashing in, whether it be your children, your parents, your aging parents, sickness. Way out there, somehow you fit into your schedule fulfilling your potential. Is that an option? Well, I say yes, it is. You got to keep going towards your eye on the prize. And that's the message. In the corner is the corner she's working towards. So, and on the list, it's all the things you gotta do. You know, family, children, shopping, marriage counseling, whatever, you know. So that's my signature portrait, and that's the painting I put on all my brochures and literature. This I call Jubilation. My experiences internationally, I've been with all kinds of women. I've lived in third world countries, in hovels, where people don't have glass on the wall. I've slept on a rope cot. I've sat on the wall with their dung fireplaces and made chapatis. And this is my celebration of all those religions and people. White representing the Hindu people that I grew to know and love. Blue is very evident of the Kabbalah, which is Judaism. Red, Buddhism. So all those things are represented, and it's really a celebration. And that's what, and the stained glass windows of Christianity. So that's what I was trying to say with this. And this, after being pissed off and everything, I wanted to, unlike a lot of artists, I'm not really morose or deep or depressed. I look at the world with joy, and things are always going to get better. This is called Riemann, and it is representative of the days in our life when we're carefree. We don't have huge responsibilities. Yes, we got to go to school, but our parents are supporting us so we can afford to let our minds wander and think that we can do all the things in the world and all the possibilities of where we want to go in our life. And I tried to create that abstraction, and yet it's an impressionistic view of that young girl looking beyond and believing that she can do all those things. And actually, this is a very popular painting. I sell it a lot. So people must connect with it. It's very hard for me to judge my own work, because I know what I like and it's never what everyone else likes. So people have to have a connection with what you do. This is called Sabbath Shalom. Shabbat is Sabbath, Shalom is hello, goodbye. It's Hebrew. It means you welcome or you say goodbye to the Sabbath. And once again, this is a respect and a joy of celebrating all that's given to us. I don't know that I'm a traditionally organized religion person as much as I am embracing of humanity. And that's what I want to represent in this painting. And you find good in all religions. You know, we've lived with Muslim people, we've lived with Hindu people, we've lived with, we have a big influence of Sikh people in our life. We love them all. They are brothers and our sisters. That influences your life, which therefore influences your art. You have to have experiences. This is Mucha and me. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Alphonse Mucha. He's an Art Nouveau artist, I think from 1869 to 1939. I love his women. None of them are skinny, and I can't relate to that. And I like the attitude. And interesting enough, when he was an artist, he wasn't even accepted in the School of Art in Paris because he was considered nothing special and frivolous. And he's gone on to become one of the greatest artists in that century. And you see his work all over Europe, Paris, Brussels, Belgium. He's a Czech artist, so he's from the Czech Republic. We spent a month in the Czech Republic. Like I said, my husband's a Rotarian, doing Rotary work, friendship exchange. And that was a great influence because I just love the joy in his work. This I call different point of view. The great thing about this, you can hang it up, vertical, down, backwards, you can do a full circle with it, and it's okay. It's a different point of view. It's however you see it. And once again, you always see the joy, but never judge people and walk in their shoes. There's no absolutes in life, at least I don't think so. You know, everybody thinks their religion or belief or ethnicity is the best or right, but perhaps if you've walked in people's shoes, if you lived with a person who was Buddhist or Hindu or Christian or Jewish or Sikh, your whole points of view about life is so wonderful, because every bit of what people believe and a lot of the faiths, and we get a bad picture about the world going on today, but I'm here to tell you the generosity of people who absolutely don't know you and have nothing is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. So I call this different point of view, and I ask people to put themselves in different positions and really think long and hard. I call this, what's your point? It's sort of a rambling on. I have a definition if you go to my website, and you'll see, you know, how I talk about on and on and on, and the answer is, what's your point? It's just a celebration of dancing and music, which is a big influence in my life. And like I said, I've been surrounded all my life by musical entourage, crazy people performing and singing and dancing. It was always invited in my home. Self-expression was never a no-no. It was celebrated. And as a child, when I played, I didn't play like everybody else. We did performances, we danced, we sung, we wrote scripts. So there you're right. One of my uncles was a comedy writer for years. And so we learned about timing and delivery and things like that. This painting, I call What's Your Point? What I did is I used an impressionistic, pointillistic look. And these are, and if you go in the art gallery, you'll see it's thousands of dots. And I use lots of metallic ink. So what happens when you have the skylights show in and they move around the room, it changes. The painting changes. And it's almost as if it was dancing off the canvas. And that was my intent. It drives my husband crazy because he says, you're so preoccupied with circles and dots. And I guess I am obsessive compulsive a little, but that's who I am. And this also, a lot of people really enjoy this painting, and it was a lot of fun to produce. This is called The Veil, and this is just my personal opinion. It really addresses being comfortable in your own skin. You're never thin enough, you're never cute enough. Why should I should have Botox, I should have breast implants, whatever. Why can't we all be comfortable in our own skin? Why do we feel, you go to other countries, people don't wear makeup, people don't obsess about their body. And my statement is, it has nothing to do with how you look. It has to do with the way you make people feel. If when people meet you, they feel good, they feel inspired, they will always remember you. And it has nothing to do with your physical appearance. It seems like the emphasis is on the wrong things in life. And this is my statement. In fact, the very first show I had, this painting was hanging in the community in Tampa, and I saw these women go over to the painting, and they were one of the biggest plastic surgery people I know. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm dead. And they went over and they were looking and reading my statement, and they were crying. They said they loved my message. So I'm glad I did it. This is also Women of Color, my celebration to all women, brown, black, Indian, Chinese. We were in Israel about 6 years ago, and we were walking in Tel Aviv down the street, and there was this shoe store of all these crazy, weird shoes that were handmade. And this woman was standing in front of the store. Her husband was a cobbler. She had every color of the rainbow on. Her shoes were outrageous. She was not a young woman. She had to be in her 40s, 50s. She was covered with jewelry. Her fingernails were painted every color of the rainbow, and she thought she was the bomb. She just had the cutest attitude. I loved it. My husband snapped a picture of her, and her hand was up like that, and I thought, I'm going to paint an ode to all women of all colors, of all races. And this is a hats off to my woman of color. Everybody's got one of these in their family, the drama queen. You know who you are. I have 3 daughters and 2 sons, and they all take turns. And I don't deny being one myself. Okay. And one day when my daughter was agonizing at how unfair and what a terrible, mean parent I was, I sort of got this idea in my mind, and she laughs at it now, but this is what I call drama queen. Everybody laughs at this one. And I abstracted it, and of course, broke the rules once again to make my point. It's all right to break the rules when you're making a point. And I think this is my very last image. This is called Happy Thai. We were in Thailand, I don't know how many years ago, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know. And we were living with people and actually we went up to the Golden Triangle where we were not supposed to be because it's where all the opium farmers are. And it's interesting. People, I don't know if it was the smartest thing to do, but if you smile at people and you are respectful of them, their homes, and their family, they will invite you in. And that's exactly what happened. They invited us in. My husband took pictures of these people in the farms, and it was interesting. The women put this white powder on their skin because they wanted to be whiter and more European looking, and it almost had a whitish blue cast. And this lady here was an umbrella maker. She was making umbrellas, sitting with the lacquer, building the little ribs and painting the umbrellas. And my husband snapped a picture of her, and I wanted to celebrate her. And it was interesting. The women were doing all the physical labor, and the men were sitting on their behinds with guns. So, and you would see them out in the fields gathering cabbages with their children. Very, very, very interesting. I've been very privileged to have the experiences that I have. But I'm here to let you know, you don't have to have money to do what we've done. There are ways to travel and ways to do whatever you want to do in life if you think it through. Every one of my children have had the opportunity to travel, and we never gave them handouts. They always figured a way of how to do it. My husband would always say to my children, you want to go overseas? Well, for every dollar you make, I'll match it. If not, it does not mean that much to you. And every one of them has traveled and backpacked, done hostels, things like that. All these things shape your life. They shape who you are going to be. So it's real important to expose yourself to as much as possible. I think I covered about everything. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Often people ask me about how my process is with painting, and basically it's really what I do is my imagination. For this picture in particular, I actually had one of those little model plastic figures, and then we put a box with a light on it, and because we knew my husband always, when I say we, it's because we're a team. We always consult. I get critiqued all the time, and I do critique back. It is not personal. It is only for us to become better at what we do. Just because somebody says to you, your composition's off, you need to clean this up, or if you're writing, your grammar's poor, they only want to make you better. It's not a criticism. It's not personal. It's because everybody is on your side. And if they're not, oh well, they don't matter. Years ago, I was told by art teachers that I was too aggressive in my painting. My colors were too intense. I needed to soften them. I needed to loosen up. Well, you know what? I didn't. I tried to learn it, but it wasn't who I was. It wasn't my hand connected to my brain. And so, take what people have to offer you. Try to take it with an open heart, a different point of view. Use it, take what you can, and keep going forward. And another thing I get all the time, people say to me, gee, I can't draw a stick, or I can't write a sentence. Yes, you can. Speak from the heart. Everyone starts somewhere. If you continue to go forward, continue to seek knowledge, continue to practice, all of a sudden, 4 years, 2 years, 3 years, 5, 20 years, you'll look back and you'll see where you came from. And it's a continuous growth cycle. It ain't over till you're dead. You keep growing, you keep getting better, and you should have fun along the way. So, does anybody have any questions or would like to know anything? Yes?
I have two questions about your work, specific pieces.
Yes.
Did the Thai woman really have blue eyes?
Did the what?
The Thai woman have blue eyes?
No, that was artistic license.
And
It's my painting.
and I love the drama queen, but I wondered why it was monochromatic.
Because I wanted the intensity of her body position, and I thought that it'd have more impact being monochromatic, you know. And drama queens are so monotone. They're like, oh, it's never good enough. And that's part of what that picture says. Oh, poor me, you know, pity party. And so a lot of that is intent. And she was asking me is why the drama queen was monochromatic, and mostly the thought process that goes in when I paint or the technique I use, it has to do with what I want to say along the way. And if you want to go to the webpage, feldmansphotography.com, and you look for Painter of Women, every one of these has a little dissertation about what I'm saying with each painting.
And also in the gallery.
Yes, oh, everything's in the gallery over here. I have about 15, 20 more pieces I couldn't fit in the gallery, but what's here, your gallery and your grounds are absolutely beautiful. You're so lucky to go to school here. I mean, all I can see is these beautiful grounds and think, what a wonderful inspirational connection you have with nature and your environment. There's nothing better than that. I get up at 4 o'clock every morning when I'm alone and it's quiet, and I look out onto a beautiful lake and collect my thoughts. I don't want television, I don't want noise. I want to be able to collect my thoughts and imagine in my brain where I want to go. And the best gift we can give ourselves is that time. And stop. Digital is important. The phones are important. Computers are important. But it's also important to find out who you are and to learn how to really communicate and become involved with people. Not texting. How about, you know, we go into people's lives, we live with them. Like I said, I've slept on a rope cot in the dead of winter. And I thought to myself, I can take anything for 1 month on the Pakistani border. And the enrichment and the beauty. I'm going to tell you a little story. I don't know if it has anything to do with art, but it has to do with humanity. We were in a little village on the Pakistani border, and people would line up every single day at the gate to say hello and welcome us. They got word that they hadn't seen Americans or white people in this particular part of the world. And they would line up every day. The women would line up, and they would touch my feet, the Hindu welcoming of you know, blessings from God, and also the caste system, I guess, because I obviously had more than she did. And I went over, and I guess she was considered an untouchable. And I went over and I put my arms around her, and I'll never forget her because she had the most beautiful blue eyes. And I hugged her because I didn't speak Hindi or any of the languages, Punjabi. I didn't speak Punjabi. I had an interpreter. And she began to weep, uncontrollably weep. And I said to the interpreter, "Why is she crying?" And she said, "Because she is untouchable and you've touched her." That visitors are a gift from God. They believe that you're a gift from God to come and visit them. And I thought to myself, my God, I just happened to be born in another country and happen to have the gratification and the privilege of education and community and gifts. And I'll never, never forget, every time I saw that woman, I'd go over and sit with her, and I'd go in her kitchen, and I'd cook with her. And I'm sure she'll remember that all her life, but I know that I certainly will, because she was a wonderful, beautiful human being. And that's where we have to get out of our comfort zone. Yes, sir?
For your piece, The Veil,
Yes.
I'm wondering if that was an observation of a certain socio-economic...
Yes.
It was a view.
Yes, that's exactly the veil. That's what it means. It's here we hide behind, and I'm guilty of it, makeup, hair, plastic surgery. We've become caricatures of ourselves. And my message is, you are who you are. People love you no matter what.
Because of your world travels, is this the only country that you've seen that kind of view in?
It's changing. It is changing. I've noticed, like in England and some of the European countries, it's changing, but it's predominantly an American thing. You don't see huge breast implants everywhere else. Most of some of the Russian countries, they're more conscious of being sexually attractive, and sometimes you see a little bit in the South American, but it's mostly an American phenomenon, and we have the money to do so. But if you were in a lot of Scandinavian countries, people are sturdy. I won't say they're overweight because they're real athletic, but they're big and tall and natural, very natural. And it's really interesting. It strikes you the minute you come into this country. You sort of do a double take. Is there anything else that you might want to add? Yes, sir.
You work with digital. Have you ever thought about when you reproduce your work, changing it digitally?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Repeat the
To be
question.
honest with you, when I do my work, the digital work, by the time I get through improving it, I change it in that capacity. And what I'm actually doing on a lot of my chiclays, most of them, is I actually paint on them so that I'm real conscious of giving people more than they ask for. And I try to give them something that's uniquely original as well. But yeah, I think what I was telling Dr. Bell here that the next thing I want to do is take those digital images and use them like a template, or not a template, but
Concept.
look at them, and I want to turn my work into sculpture. That's my next goal. Yes?
You did say that you took your work and printed it out on canvas on inkjet.
Mm-hmm.
I know that inkjet isn't waterproof, so how do you preserve it after you've gotten it on the paper?
We have Epson printers, and I seal them and I lacquer them, and I paint, and I put a protective coating on them, and then I stretch them. And we have a canvas stretching business as well, where we canvas for people all over the United States.
So you can varnish over that?
Yes, you use a polymer on it and to seal it. You have to, otherwise it will chip or break. Or yes, I seal it 3-4 times and then stretch it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Melanie, I know you see your art as self-expression,
clearly is, but listening to you talk about your experiences and your travel and your connections with humanity, it strikes me that there's sort of a socially constructive purpose to the art that you do.
Yeah, I'm sort of self-conscious about being self-possessed. And with me, the big picture is our connection with others in life. And I would say, I guess because I've lived with narcissistic people all my life. I'm so self-conscious of trying not to be self-indulgent, coming from a family of show-offs. and my message is that of others and how much more alike we are than we're unlike each other. We always like to think of division, you know, particularly with war, with terrorism and things. I'm here to tell you, my husband and I are Jewish, and I have lived and had friendship and brotherhood with people who are Muslim, and they are so good to us, and we love them. It has to do with individual people. And the more you try to get to know people who are different, diversity, very important what you learn from diversity and getting involved with people that are different than you. And our kids always say to us, Mom and Dad, this Thanksgiving, who are you adopting? That's been the standard joke in our house, but it's wonderful. Yes, sir?
So would you say that your overarching belief is that you'd like somebody to look at a piece and take the message from that and maybe say, you know what, X is the social norm, but that's not really what I should be believing or thinking or doing?
Well,
Kind of break out of that psychology.
yeah, in essence, that's who I am, and I can't dictate to anybody what they should think or be, but I'm hoping from my example or my message that it'll make people think. It'll make people think about their lives and possibilities. Because we are shaped into the people we are by our experiences and by our community. And anything is possible. It doesn't matter how old you are. You know, they always use the Grandma Moses example that she didn't start painting until she was very elderly. And the truth of the matter is, unlike an athlete, or maybe even a musician with your armature and your prime can be in your 50s and 60s as an artist or a writer, because it's an accumulation of knowledge. And not everything you write has to be verbose, but if it's from the heart, sometimes the simplest books or the simplest stories are the most touching because they're from the heart. People know when you're not real. Okay, and if you speak from the heart and you speak from who you are, whether it be writing, music's an expression of your soul. When you do that, you touch people, and you also get in touch with yourself. And not everything is about money. It can be about just developing your character, your heart, your philosophy, and being attuned with nature. So as a 64-year-old woman that's done a lot of traveling and has had a huge amount of experience, I'm here to tell you that anything is possible. And still is. I plan to continue 3-4 times a year. We're in different countries. And we're planning in 2 months, we're going to be in Russia. Yes, sir?
What culture do you think influenced your art the most?
It's hard to say what culture. My family were Italian immigrants. So I was brought up by very flamboyant, emotional, demonstrative Italian people. But then as I got older, I married a man who was Jewish. And I lived in New York City as a real young kid as well. And all those ethnicities influenced me. I would say the Italian, but I also, right now I have a huge influence in my life of Asian, Indian, beautiful people, and we've participated in their temples and gone to their weddings and learned about their ceremonies. But yeah, probably the early beginnings was a huge influence, but I've changed. And I'm not like the rest of my family for that reason. Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever been to Africa?
Yes. We've spent a lot of time in Africa, in Kenya, in Morocco.
Egypt.
In Egypt. I've spent a lot of time in Egypt. And those are all different cultures too, by the way. But yes, we've spent a lot of time in Africa, in Kenya, Nairobi, Mombasa. And there again, that was fascinating. It's kind of scary when you're not used to the poverty. But don't be afraid. I mean, actually in a lot of countries, they were afraid of us. They have this, like the Maasai people were afraid of us. They thought all Americans carry guns because of what they see on TV. So, yes, I have been to Africa. Anybody else? Well, I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be with you and to share my journey. And I hope you all are very successful in all your endeavors. Thank you. And if you want to ask me more questions, I'm available. Thank you.